Tokyo is very big city, and there's almost 40 million people if you include Yokohama and Saitama and Chiba, and these people are taking the trains every day, going to work, shopping, moving through the city, and I think you can say that the one of the defining features of Tokyo is just people and more people all the time. And because of that, there's lots of different ways of thinking and ways of living and different ways of being in this huge, huge city. The novel wants to look at Tokyo as a kind of amazing place that looks really perfect on the outside, but of course underneath there's all these problems and difficulties. It looks like the trains run perfectly all the time, but below the surface of life, there's just kind of the same problems as every other big city. The novel goes to different places in Tokyo, goes to the temples, which are these oases of quiet and tranquility, where it's just so calming to be there. Goes to the trains, and people are running through the train stations. Novel goes to the skyscraper offices, where the big deals take place, and Roppongi, which is one of the nightlife hubs of, kind of thriving, throbbing place. The characters also are in real places where people really eat, not the fancy restaurants, but noodle shops and standing bars. And this is where kind of quote unquote regular people stop and eat. So the novel really looks at all these different parts or pieces of this giant puzzle of Tokyo. And kind of running through all that, of course, is the trains. And the trains are how everybody gets other places. And title of the novel, The Last Train, of course, becomes very ironic. The train is this spectacular side of Tokyo that makes the city work, but takes on a very ironic and a little bit different meaning by the end of the novel. Tokyo is a very complicated place. It's huge. It's a wealthy city, of course. It's a big city. The economy of Tokyo is the 14th largest in the world. So the economy just of Tokyo is bigger than most countries. And because of that, it's a very diverse economy, and it's very complicated and competitive and site of conflict. So the novel wants to look at how all these different economies work and the societies kind of dependent on them. And on the one hand, there's the vestiges of the old manufacturing economy where things are created in factories, small factories. It looks at the information society where service industries, but also just knowing things, knowing where a new building will spring up, or knowing which streets will be changed with urban reform of some kind. And then it looks at, very top level financing, as well as the detectives and the other office workers. All of these different economies, all of these different societies exist inside Tokyo, and makes for a very complex but also very, very interesting way of life. Tokyo seems a strange place to set a crime novel in a way, because crime is, relative to other countries at least, rather low. However, crimes do occur despite the general level of safety. It really is true that if you lose your wallet, you're pretty likely to get it back. You misplace your purse and somebody will take it to the police box, koban, which are sprinkled all through the city. The police are there watching all the time, very community oriented. They're on bicycles in the neighborhoods. And generally it's a really extremely safe city, kind of surprisingly safe. But that doesn't mean there's no crime. There is crime. And because the crimes are perhaps more scarce, a little bit more rare, they're kind of more shocking, more violent perhaps. The same passions boil inside Japanese that are in every country, the jealousy and greed and desire and fear and all the things that push people towards crime exist in Japan just the same as in every other country. Detective Hiroshi is interesting and I think very Japanese character. He's been overseas, he lived in America, he speaks English, and so he has this international mindset, but at the same time he's very Japanese, and he thinks about his work, which is as a kind of accountant tracking down white collar crime, but he feels things like he was brought up in Japanese culture. He's really somebody who likes to stay inside, not go out and get their hands dirty at the crime scene, but his mentor, Takamatsu, very different kind of detective, drags him out to the scene, to the streets, to the scenes, and he doesn't like it very much. Takamatsu is a different type of person, different type of detective. He likes to get things done, no matter how. But later in the novel, Hiroshi teams up with another detective, Sakaguchi. Sakaguchi is really old-style Japanese person. He's from Osaka. He was a sumo wrestler when he was young, and he's a huge guy. All three detectives look at crime in a very, very different way. But we follow Detective Hiroshi as he starts to go all through Tokyo looking for the killer. The bad guy in the novel is bad girl woman who tries to really get what she feels is owed her, and she goes after that with a lot of effort and intelligence and savvy. She's a very intense person, and she wants what everybody wants in a way, but she just goes after it a little bit too strongly. The idea for her actually came from politics. The current Prime Minister Shinzo Abe had the idea of womenomics, which was a kind of program to bring more women into society, to use them in the economy more completely, more fully, use their potential. Of course, that didn't happen, but it was a nice idea, a nice try. And the main character, Michiko, is really kind of the ultimate example of a woman entering into the male world and making her way.